With reports of the 49ers wanting to take Mac Jones or Trey Lance at 3 in the draft, Justin Fields is guaranteed to drop outside of the top 4 of the NFL draft. This is incredibly confusing, especially if you go back to January and tell yourself this is what's going to happen. Justin Fields and Trevor Lawrence were the 2 best quarterbacks coming into the draft before the NFL season ended. Heck, there was talk the Jaguars might draft Justin Fields because he was an Ohio State guy, and Urban Meyer took the job. But now Justin Fields' stock is dropping, and it is wide open on what team might possibly take him. I have never seen a QB prospect so universally loved, and I legit can't think of anyone that comes to mind that doesn't like Justin Fields or think he is a top 3 QB prospect, besides maybe just a handful of people. And a lot of people say he's the number 2 quarterback available. Everyone is saying Justin Fields should be a top 3 QB taken, but yet he's not going to be probably. And whatever team gets him will not regret taking him, like everyone is saying this. So I wanted to talk about Justin Fields and why he's not going top 3 and why he's one of the most confusing QB prospects to ever evaluate. But before I get into Justin Fields, if you could hit that subscribe button, we are giving away a free shirt at the end of every week. Make sure you subscribe to the channel now, and I will get to the details at the end of the video. I will also announce last week's winner at the end of this video as well. Now, the Justin Fields dilemma is really one of the most intriguing stories I've ever seen in an NFL draft. The only other times I've seen a quarterback prospect drop, but really doesn't deserve it at all, is like Deshaun Watson or maybe a Tua, but there are a little bit of concerns with Justin Fields. Now, right before the NFL draft, scouts love to overanalyze and criticize just every little detail about a player. The epilepsy story that comes out with Justin Fields, some people saying he's not a great leader, which is really dumb. But you know what? They did this with Patrick Mahomes and Justin Herbert, and now look how they're doing. And those guys are incredible. Overanalyzing guys in the draft is a tradition unlike any other. Compare it to college basketball. For me personally, right before March Madness, we over-evaluate every team, trying to figure out every little detail because there's so many teams to evaluate. And no matter what happens, no matter how much research, the bracket always blows up in a way nobody projected. And one team is like Baylor. I mean, Baylor is the perfect comparison to Justin Fields. They were the best defense in college basketball. Then they had to go on a COVID pause and they came back and they didn't really look as good on defense, but they weren't able to practice. That's why. So everybody jumped off and people just didn't think they were good anymore, but yet they went out and won the national championship. So like, that's just one example of people over-evaluating a team based on recency bias. And I think that's what's happened to Justin Fields' stock. Now, I will say every analyst is saying that Justin is a top 3 quarterback. Even if he doesn't get taken within the top 3 by the 49ers, I still think he is a top quarterback in the draft. I mean, I've seen so many people talk about Justin being the best QB in the draft, no matter what QB it is taken. I mean, you can name anybody, and I think a lot of people would say Justin Fields is at least top 2. He's probably going to go to a team that is on the brink of contending if he doesn't go top 3. The Falcons, the Lions, the Broncos, Panthers, Vikings, Patriots, Raiders, Washington, the Bears, the Steelers, or the Saints, all teams that are looking for a quarterback possibly, and those are some really good franchises on the brink of contending with the right quarterback. Now, obviously, the reports have come out that the New England Patriots are possibly a team that's looking at Justin Fields and moving up.
The Patriots have been calling around in the top 10, and teams that have gotten those calls believe that their target would be Ohio State quarterback Justin Fields.
Now, if the Patriots move up to get him, sheesh. I mean, like, how are you going to let Justin Fields, one of the top quarterback prospects, fall to the best organization in the NFL? Like, that's where I get confused, is how are these teams just going to let Justin Fields slide to them? And like, that's a good fit there, but he's not a good fit with like the Jets or 49ers or the Falcons or the Lions. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's where I just get really confused. Like, how's he not good enough to go to one of those teams, but he's good enough to go to like the Patriots? I just don't get it. It's also very possible to contend with a quarterback on a rookie deal, like the Browns, Bills, Ravens, Chiefs, even the Rams with Jared Goff. These all have been teams that are contenders with QBs on rookie deals, give them flexibility to spend money on other positions. So getting a Justin Fields could do that for you. He is an elite multi-sport athlete, like a Russell Wilson or a Patrick Mahomes, because he played baseball just like them. Obviously an incredibly smart kid. He was recruited by Ivy League schools. He's had no injury history, no off the field issues, and played well at a top 3 school in college football, and in my opinion carried them a little bit. I swear, if somebody says that, well, Ohio State quarterbacks always end up as busts, well, you know what? Look at Trey Lance and Mac Jones. I mean, they're at schools with quarterbacks that are under delivering or just underachieved or bust in their career. Like, Alabama has not had a lot of great quarterbacks before Tua got there, obviously. So it doesn't matter. I mean, Joe Burrow was at Ohio State. I mean, even though he left, but he was still there. So you can be a good quarterback coming from Ohio State. It's just a stupid take. Do you think teams are just not going to draft Sam Howell next year because Mitch Trubisky went to North Carolina? I just think that's dumb. Justin Fields' stats speak for themselves. I mean, last year, his stats were incredible. He was a 2019 Heisman finalist. He was the first quarterback in Big Ten history with a 40 passing touchdown, 10 rushing touchdown season. He's a 2-time Big Ten Offensive Player of the year. He had a 70.2 completion percentage last year. He had 41 touchdowns and 3 interceptions that led FBS. I mean, Justin balled out versus Clemson with a hurt spleen. I mean, that really showed his leadership to just stay in that game after taking big hit after big hit. And they just led a dominating performance that got them to a national championship game versus one of the best offenses we've ever seen in college football. So like, what do you expect him to do? Justin's bad games though came versus the best defenses in college football, like Indiana and Northwestern. I mean, those are the games that he's really getting picked apart for by teams where he's getting over-evaluated. I mean, that happens. Those are the best defenses in college football. Like, those are the only games he really didn't play great in. And those teams want to muck it up. So like, what can you really do? Someone I love listening to though is Greg Cosell when it comes to evaluating prospects. I mean, this is a guy that is a veteran who watches a lot of tape. And on the Rich Eisen show the other day, he said something about Justin Fields that really stood out to me.
But I'll tell you the guy who in rewatching, who I'm starting to like more. And again, I don't know him. Justin Fields has really grown on me. I think he's got a lot of really good traits, and I'm really curious to see where he goes. I really like the way he throws the ball. To quote a coach that I know, he's got a 65-plus yard arm, so he can drive the football. I think he's got a power arm. I think he can throw with touch and pace. But I think he's really a high-level traits quarterback. And we just don't know by Herbert why those things that were on tape that were not necessarily positive didn't show up this year. Maybe it's just natural development of the player. Maybe it was coaching. Maybe it's any number of reasons. But that's why I'm so anxious to see where Fields goes, because I just think he has high-level traits.
And then another person that I love is Joel Klatt, the college football expert. I mean, he is a guy that said some fantastic things on Justin Fields on the Rich Eisen show as well.
I think that the knocks on Justin Fields and the narratives surrounding Justin Fields have been completely blown out of proportion and are completely false. He's my second best quarterback overall in the draft, right behind Trevor Lawrence. In fact, when he played at Clemson this last year and was putting on historically great performance in that semifinal after it looked like he was playing with a lacerated kidney or a bursted spleen, ruptured spleen. Remember, after that hit, there was conversations about, hey, is he making a push to the #1 spot? One of my biggest pet peeves with this entire draft process is when there's all this movement after guys are actually on the field. Justin Fields is a phenomenal player. We haven't seen his size and speed and accuracy down the field maybe ever. He can run it. He can do all of those things. He has one bad game against Indiana in a year in which they don't have a fall camp. He's pressing to get himself back into the Heisman Trophy race and get his team back on the footing where they can go to the playoff, and everyone wants to throw him down the draft board. I don't quite understand it.
And another guy that I love is JT O'Sullivan, a guy with a great channel on YouTube, the QB School. He legit thinks Justin Fields is the best quarterback in the draft.
Justin Fields, #1. I think he's the best of the best. No offense to Trevor Lawrence. I think he's also very good. But Justin Fields, for my money, if I was making that type of wager, that type of investment, I think he's got the highest ceiling. I think he's a very good player now. I love the toughness. So for me, Justin Fields, #1.
Out of high school, Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields grew up miles apart from each other. They were the top 2 quarterbacks coming out for their class. I mean, last year, he and Trevor were the projected 1 and 2. Justin comes out this year, plays great, and then all of a sudden, he's not worthy of a top 2 selection. I really just don't get it. I think he's just getting judged way too critically. His size and speed, the way he attacks down the field is really special for a quarterback prospect. And I think that whatever team gets him in the draft is really going to excel. I mean, I don't think he has a lot of bust potential. And it's not like I'm the only one saying it. Legit, I've not seen anybody say anything bad about Justin Fields. Everybody and their mother is saying that Justin Fields is a top 3 quarterback. He should go top 3. Like, nobody is saying Mac Jones should go top 3, except for maybe the 49ers. So like, it's a really interesting quarterback dilemma, and one that I've really never seen play out like this. I can't wait for the NFL draft. It's going to be fascinating to see what happens. I really like Justin Fields as a prospect. I mean, a lot of people do, but again, if he could go to an organization like New England, why can't he go anywhere else? That's what I'm saying. Like, cool that he fits for the best organization in football, but if he can fit there, he can really fit anywhere. So 1, let me know what you guys think about the NFL draft coming up. Are you guys excited? I'm very curious to hear your projections. And number 2, let me know what you guys think about Justin Fields. Do you think he's a really good prospect? And number 3, where do you think Justin Fields is going to end up? But before the video ends, again, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. I'll be giving away a free shirt of your team to 1 subscriber at the end of every week. Make sure you subscribe, notifications on, and most importantly, comment down below. The winner will be randomly selected, and the best way to increase your chances of winning is to comment on more videos, since it's completely random, and hit the notification bell for more uploads. Congrats to Cutter Finley on winning this week's shirt giveaway. Stay tuned for next week's giveaway. Make sure you message me on Twitter at Cole Adams to give me your contact information for your shirt of choice. And follow me on Twitter for live updates on everything happening in the sports world. Thank you for checking out my channel. I can't wait for the NFL draft. I will see you in the next video. Peace.